Namaste everyone. Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsangs house. The ongoing sessions are on Bhagavad Gita offered by Bindoji from an Advaita perspective. We are on chapter 6, room number 3. If you want to catch the replays of the earlier rooms, you can listen to them as replays in Clubhouse if you go to the house, or you can access them through the YouTube channel called Advaita Retold, where they are cataloged as separate series. You have Bhagavad Gita, and then earlier we had Avaroksha Anubhuti, and then we had a few Upanishads. You'll find them all well arranged in the YouTube channel. There are two other repositories, which is the Apple Podcast and the Spotify, the links of which are shared, and all these three are maintained very meticulously. There is also a book published by Artemisia based on Bindoji's insights into Advaita, and the name of the book is The Imaginary Door. And it's available on the Amazon platform, and the links of that are also shared in the chat. So for housekeeping, I'll close the chat and hand raising when Bindoji is offering the class, after which we'll open up those channels for any discussion points pertaining to the class specifically. And always thank you, Bindoji. Over to you to begin.
Thank you, Prakash. Namaste and Hari Om to all of you. My invocation. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartrubhyo Vamsharishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murtibheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The Gita Dhyana Shlokam. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudramarutaha Stunvandya Divyaistavai Vedai Sangapadakramo Panishadai Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyandam na Vidussura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Om. We have completed 2 slokas from the 6th chapter, where Krishna is laying down the methodology and definitions for a mumukshu and a jnani. But he has very categorically mentioned in the first verse itself that sa sannyasi cha yogi cha. He is talking about one person only. The same person, what he is before as a person desirous of achieving the jnana, and the yogi, one who has attained the statehood. Not about people who are apparently doing these things outwardly, externally. That is why when he said na niragni na akriya, when he mentioned these two, is to take out the wrong concept people have about people doing it externally, but what is more important is the internal aspect. In the second verse, he said that the same sannyasa mahu yogam, both the sannyasa and yoga is the same. Tad vidhi Pandava, or Arjuna, you should know that both are the same. At different different stages. There is no separate sannyasa, there is no separate yogam. It is a progressive movement of an individual. When he is in a state of practicing to attain the knowledge and on arriving at the knowledge. For that purpose, he says that sankalpa, that is the inner volitional predisposition of the mind and the intellect, is what makes him a sannyasi and a yogi. He also positively refutes that nahi asanyasta sankalpa yogi bhavati. Kaschana. The word kaschana is very important in the sense that no one at any point of time can be a yogi if he cannot abandon or renunciate or discard sankalpa, the activities of the mind and the intellect or the antakarana. In this today's verse, he says that Aruruksho mune yogam karma karanam uchyate yogharudasya tasya eva chama karanam uchyate. He is further defining what is a sannyasi and what is a yogi. Aruruksho means one who has just begun the path. Arudum Icha means he is desirous of ascending to the knowledge, state of knowledge. Munehe. Muni here, it doesn't mean he is a rishi or a person who is considered as a mauni, etc. Here Muni is for mananashilaha yaha saha muni. One who has contemplation. Shravana Manana Nididhyasana put together is called contemplation as his activity. So he is having an activity of desirous to get the knowledge. At that time when he is desirous of getting the knowledge, yoga karma karana muchyate. The same yoga which is the sannyasa at that level, he is in the state of renouncing his sankalpas, his inner volitional dependencies on the intellect and the mind. Karma karanam uchyate. For him, the path or the cause, karanam means it can be the cause or it can be the method. Karma, he is very clearly saying that at that stage of when you are progressing towards until you achieve the knowledge, you have to depend upon karma. That is why karma karanam uchyate. Tasya eva, the same person, yogharudasya, when he has completed or he has attained shama karanam uchyate. Here shama is not the dhamma shama of the Shat Sampatti. Here shama is the shamanam or cessation of all mental activities. That is the path or that is the method for him to remain in a state of knowledge. So, when we look into the details of this thing, Krishna, having praised the Karma Yoga as sannyasa, inasmuch as it is the action performed without dependence on the results, anashrita karma valam. Now, gives the path toward dhyana yoga. Now the text proceeds to show that karma yoga is indeed a means to dhyana yoga. Now what is dhyana? We will see it much later. But here he is beginning to define the path or the method. Yogam aruksho mune karma karanam uchyate. For the muni, the mananashila, or desirous of ascending or desirous of achieving the jnana, karma karanam uchyate. The means are declared is only karma. That is anashrita karma phalam. Karyam karma karodiyaha. That has to be understood in this current sense. So he is talking about fully engaged in activities. At the same time, he should be anashrita karma phalam. He should not be desirous of the fruits of action. Tasya eva, the same person, when he becomes a yogaruda, that is having ascended to the, yes, now qualified and elevated himself to a state of sthita prajna, or a brahmavit, or atmavit, tattvavit. Shama karanam uchyate. Shama means, the word shama has got tranquility, cessation, etc. as a meaning, but here it is stilling of the mental activity. We should understand that this word shama in the usage has got various meaning. The first meaning is shanti, or the what you call tranquility. That is the first and foremost meaning. Second meaning is moksha. Third meaning is hands. Fourth meaning is freedom from ailments. Fourth one is the one shamadama, where is the withdrawal of the indriyas. Fifth one is nivritti or nisangata, where there is no nirapekshata. There is total abstainment. Then shama is another meaning, and rejecting, tiraskarana. These are the different meanings for shama used in Sanskrit for the purpose of, the word. But we should not get confused between the different meanings, unless that is why we need to know this as our uh, uh, context, in the meaning in the context here. So, having 1 minute, I have the issue with the. Okay. Shamakaranam uchyate. Right. Now, in this particular, there are two terms which are not same, but about the same person. The terms are Arurukshu and Yogaruda. The single metaphor is based on the root, one root, ruh, means to climb, to mount, is applied, but in a different suffixes. One becomes and desirous of one who wishes to achieve is Arurukshu. He is at the base of the mountain, looking upward, not yet climbed. His feet are still on the ground or the karma kanda or the day-to-day empirical life living. The meant Aruda or Yoga Ruda means one who has already climbed and seated at the top of the summit. He has no more, his hands and legs are no more in the base of the mountain. Means he is no more engaged in the empirical world. He is established and he is no activity of his own, neither desirous to climb nor climbing or any of such thing. He is well established. Therefore, the same Muni, Satya Eva, are the two different stages of one sadhaka or that two different phases of the trajectory. And for each stage, since he is in the first stage of Arurukshu, desirous of achieving, he has to achieve it through karma. Because karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Krishna has said that adhikara is for mumukshu, is in the karma. And that should not make you, feel that, if we are not to be desirous of the fruit, anashrita karma phalam, you will become, disinterested in action. No. That has to be continued. That is Krishna's very clear statements. So the two-stage model of the yoga sadhana, which is mentioned in this verse, ya dvita nishta pura prokta mayanakaha, jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. That has to be remembered here. See, the link between the verses are very important. The two modes of the spiritual establishment for the same person, where even though it may appear that Sankhyas are different and Yogis are different, in the statement when we studied that first verse, Dvivida Nishta. Nishta can be Dvivida, but the person can be the same. It is two successive stages, not two parallel permanent paths for two different set of people. For it is the same for every one of us. Whatever may be our path or whatever may be our stage at which we are in the trajectory, it is for one and the same person. Arurukshu is a karma yoga bhumikasta, means one who is established in the platform of karma yoga. For him, the prescription is karyam karma karodhiyaha, without the appropriation of the fruit as the upaya. So here, the upaya or the action serves the job of purifying him, chitta shuddhi sadhana, progressively dissolving the vikshepa shakti or the dispersive power of the avidya in the mind. Whereas the yoga ruda is the one who has, through sustained practice, arrived at yoga siddhi. The mind has become sufficiently concentrated, purified, and internalized. For him, the continued outward engagement in action is no longer his actions, because he has understood he is a akarta abhokta. But at the same time, he has to practice shama, the complete stilling of the mental projections. Because if that is not done, the avidya can again become stronger. And that will take him away from the Atmajnana, like how we are now. By nature, by truth, by the fact, we are Atmas, but we are thinking we are human beings and going through all problems of empirical world, because we are not able to remain in Shama, to know that we are Atma, we are Brahman. So Shankaracharya's anti-samuchaya here, he says that the Lord himself, Krishna himself declares karma to be the karanam, a cause as a means or an instrument, not as an end to the knowledge. Because in the case of a Yogaruda or a Brahmavid or a Sthita Prajna or a Tattvavid, Shama Karana Uchade. He is not saying Karma Karana Uchade. He is saying Shama is the means. So it's very clear that the inner stillness is for the one who has arrived at the knowledge. But for the rest of us all, karma is the only means, and that too karma without any desire for the fruit of action. Then he is further saying the nature of the person, the qualified seeker or muni. The word chosen by Krishna is very clear that he used the word muni not as, he mentioned earlier that Sankhyanam or Yoginam. He didn't use any such word, nor the words which he had used in the 3rd and 4th chapter like Tattvavid, Brahmavid or Atmavid or Atmanishta. None of these words he had used, but he has used the word muni. It's a deliberate reason why Krishna has used the word muni. Muni derives from the verb man, manyate or manute. Mananashilaha is muni, one who reflects and silent inwardly, one who has already turned the mind inward, who is contemplative by orientation. Avrta chakshu amrutattvamichat. That is what it is indicated here. He is not a worldly person or pursuing karma for the phenomenal needs or phenomenal ends. Muni is already a mumukshu. He is desiring to achieve the knowledge. So he has abandoned the desire for fruits of action, anashrita karma phalam, and aspiring towards liberation. The karma which is meaningful him is not seen as a desirous action, but as an action which is swabhavastu pravartate. It is happening because of the swabhava of the indriyas, mano, buddhi, etc. So at the level of a seeker, he continues in the activities, but the moment he has established himself in this knowledge, Yogaruda, Shama is the cause for it. The complete cessation of Sankalpa Vikalpa, all mental projections, conceptions, fruits of directed towards intentions, etc. It is an Antakarana Nirodha of the mind no longer requiring engagement in action. It is now naturally oriented towards the Shanti within, Akshaya Shanti, which was mentioned earlier in the earlier chapter. It is naturally oriented towards that. That is why the word Shama, Shamanam, has happened in him. It is not a forced suppression or nigraha or a, yoga practice, but a spontaneous stillness born out of sufficient purification. It is an organic fruit of a completed sadhana. In the commentary, Shankaracharya gives the stage-wise ascent, saying that Bahya Karma Nishta is external engagement in action, is for the Sthula Mumukshu. They are the people who are not understood the real meaning of Gita, Upanishad or Brahma Sutra or any teacher's advice. But they are interested in spiritual path. So they may be doing the japa, bhajana, etc. or, the social activity, social service, etc. Working on themselves, they have not started. The second stage comes the Karma Yogi. He is called a Arurukshu Muni, where action is interiorized and he has started surrendering the fruit of action. And the third stage is the Jnana Nishta or Samanishta. He is the Yogaruda. He even the karma which is apparent karma drops away for him. And he is in pure Atma Vichara or think on the Samadhi oriented stillness internally. So the Karana shifts in each of these cases. Karana means the means. Because all these things are Antakarana level itself is getting shifted. It is a graduated pedagogy. Adhikara Anusarini Shiksha. Because each stage, the means for fulfilling that stage is prescribed by Krishna. So, having told about the truth in the beginning of the second chapter, then described the nature of the Sthita Prajna in the second chapter, he moved into karma, karma yoga, karma sannyasa, and now he is moving towards the jnana nishta. Before doing the jnana nishta, what is the requirement or the shamakarana muchyate? The tranquilling or the requirement of the mind in absolute tranquility. Only in a tranquil mind, the knowledge can shine and the avidya can be dissolved. So for this is the reason why Krishna is now defining these things. Karma Yoga operates at the level of Vikshepa, Nivritti stage, removing the dispersal of the agitation at the mind and helping the mind to focus inward. Even many of us are not even to know how to focus inwardly, because we learned it in the Kathopanishad. Paranchikani vidranatta ingbu tasmat parang pashyati nandaratma. That sense organ, the dependency on the sense organs in mind is so much that his vision, action, everything is parang, means externally, outwardly. And inward process or the existence, something called inward, is not available to such people. They are so exoteric in their living. But when the dispersal and the agitation of the mind, dependencies on the sense organs reduce, the avarana nivritti, or the removal of the ignorance, will be known as a means by those people. But they do not know the end result. So the sequence of karma towards shama and then jnana at the end is how avidya is progressively dissolved. At the stage of karma yogi, the action is phalatyaga, karma phalatyaga. And avidya addressed as vikshepa shakti, the projecting and dispersing power for wanting of things outside. When you do the phalatyaga, naturally the tendency for the indriyas or the sense organs and the mind to go outwardly reduces. This is what is called the vikshepa shakti gets reduced. Vikshepa means projection, projecting or going outward. The yoga ruda stage or the yoga siddhi stage, shama karanam, shama is the cause. And when you are tranquiling or that, equipoise of the mind is being achieved, the avarana shakti or the wheeling power or the power which clouds the knowledge, that starts reducing or diminishing. Because the mind is no more agitating, so there is no dust formed out of the mind. Everything settles down. And in the jnana nishta, when that matures, the yoga siddhi matures, the yoga ruda using shama matures, he arrives at the jnana nishta or brahma nishta or tattva nishta, where he is having the aparokshanubhavam, atma vichara and brahma vichara. This removes the avidya from the root. Because the avidya, which was the basis for the individual to think that he is an individual, ego-based individual, functioning through the body, mind and intellect, that it gets nullified due to the aparokshanubhava, and thereafter he is in abidance in the self or in the self-abidance. Atma vichara or Brahma vichara is not thinking about Atma or thinking about Brahma. The vichara, the word vichara doesn't mean that the thought. It is abidance. So when Krishna says these steps, he uses a very crucial word, tasya eva, which is used by Shankaracharya as his most dependent word, that Krishna himself is mentioning that karma and jnana cannot go together. But it is in the same person, tasya eva. Tasya eva means same person, who is having karma in the beginning as a sadhana, because due to the phalatyaga he gets chitta shuddhi, sattva shuddhi, and then in the shama, in the mind where the dhyana yoga helps him, he realizes himself as Atma or Brahman. So the route is very clear in this path. Krishna is also very clear that he is talking about the path for a one and same person, because he is addressing Arjuna. As Arjuna, today when we are studying Gita, we are the listeners to whom Krishna is addressing this. Then he goes to the next verse. Yada hi nendriyarteshu na karmasvabanishuchyade sarva sankalpa sannyasi yogarudas taduchyate. Who is a yogaruda? Yada hi sa munihi indriyarteshu na anushajyate karmasu na anushajyate. Yada saha sarva sankalpa sannyasi bhavati tada saha yogarudaha uchyate. That is, I read the prose portion of the verse. The meaning is, when that Muni does not cling to the sense objects, indriyarteshu na anusajjate, does not cling to the actions, karmasu na anusajjate. When he has become one who has renounced all sankalpa, which we discussed yesterday, yada saha sarva sankalpa sannyasi bhavati, tada saha aruda uchyate. Then he is declared as yogaruda. So Krishna's definition of yogaruda is very clear. Each word is yada means when, he indeed, na negation, indriyarteshu, in the sense objects, that's to be linked with anushajyate later. Na karmasu, na indriyarteshu, na karmasu, anushajyate. Anushaj, shaj, shanj, ida dhatu, means to cling, to attach, to adhere, to depend upon. Na anushajyate means do not depend upon the indriyarteshu, means objects of the indriya, sense objects. And na karmasu, the actions for obtaining them. So he is such a person who is not anymore attracted towards the indriyarteshu, means the sense objects through the senses. Nor does he get motivated towards those objects to do action. Karmasu na anushajyate. Not only that, sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Sarva means all. Sankalpa means, we learned it yesterday, all volition. Sannyasi, one who renounces all volition, or one who has renounced all sankalpa. Tada, at that time, Yogaruda uchyate. Only at that time he is called a Yogaruda. That means Krishna is defining when you can become a Yogaruda. Indriyana marta, indriyartha, sense objects. Sarva sankalpa sannyasi. Sarvesham sankalpanam sannyasaha yasya saha. He whose renunciation encompasses all, that sarva is very important, is critical. Yogaruda, one who has achieved, fully established. The important word in this verse is the anushajyate. Anushajyate, the verb anu plus shan, means to adhere, to stick, to cling. The image is of something that latches upon and that does not let go, like a leech or like a memory. Na anishojanti pandita. Krishna said this earlier. Anushojanam is when you have shanch, anushanch. So the prefix anu adds a sense of following after the clinging. The same anushojanam here anushanjate. The two different verbs but indicating the same meaning or indicating the same intent. Indriyartha, the sense objects, can become such a leech in our mind because of our desire for acquiring that or engagement during possession of that or the happiness it gave. That happiness also can make us remember about the object. The addiction, like drug, alcohol, feminine thing, or any activity which is making you dependency on that. So indriyarteshu na anushajyate means he is such a person who has no such dependencies. Nor na karmasu. No action in him is prompted or triggered or delivered by any such desire on the indriyarteshu. If you remove all the indriyarteshu, all the indriya objects, sense objects, the mind has nothing to cling on to. What does the mind cling on? It clings on desires, memory, etc. And that is the one which prompts the mind to trigger the sense of objects of action, organs of action, in achieving the trigger which is giving the mind the activity. That are the sense objects. I am explaining this mainly that it is a method in which we have to analyze our own mind. I am not talking about a psychological classroom or a psychiatrist method of analyzing things. This is a Shravana Manana Nididhyasana class. So what I am talking about is for each one of us to practice to identify not only what we are addicted to or how to identify objects. Objects means objects, emotions, feelings, thoughts, etc. All of them. as sense objects or indriyarteshu, which is prompting us towards activity. That can happen only for a muni who has a manana shila, who has the process or the path or the method of doing Shravana Manana. Only he can identify the dependency of the mind on the sense objects and which prompts the mind to achieve toward those objects. It can be emotions, feelings, thoughts, objects, etc. So when Krishna said that double negation, na indriyarteshu, na karmasu, it covers the full field of possible attachment. Outward sense objects and actions doing themselves for their own achievement. Neither sensory experience nor ritual, moral, or any sorts of action no longer can become a hook in the mind of a muni. The moment he is free from these two, he is moving towards the Yogaruda post, achieving toward the Yogaruda state, but it is not complete. It can become complete only when the root condition underlying both indriyartha and karma is also addressed by renouncing all sankalpa. That is, I included emotions, feelings and thoughts in the category. If sarva sankalpa sannyasa takes place, it is mandatory before that we have to detach ourselves from the sense objects and actions resulting from them. What will be our state at that time? Our state will be Sharira Dharanartham Jiva Rakshartham, not for protecting our life, but maintaining our life, which Krishna has said in the earlier verse. If you remember that verse, actions are only for the purpose of maintaining the body. Till jnana is achieved, body is a reality to a yogaruda or a sannyasi or a mumukshu or a sadhaka. Only after realizing and abiding in Atma, he can become a Sakshi. That time he will see the body, the Indriyas, the mind, the body-mind complex, the world, the activities of Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti as happenings in nature. Swabhavastu pravartate. The natural happening of the Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti is not for me. I am not the one in the waking dream and deep sleep. I am the one who knows the waking dream and deep sleep. Therefore, tebhyo vilakshanat sakshi. I have to be different from that. If I am a knower, I cannot be the known. I know my Jagrat, I know my dream, I know my deep sleep. So I cannot be the Jagrat Purusha, nor the Dream Purusha, nor the Sushupti Purusha. But Tebhyo Vilakshanat Sakshi. I am the witness of all the three. But that stage cannot be achieved if I am clinging to either the waking, dream or deep sleep. This is what is called the Indriyarteshu. Because our sense objects are operating in the waking, dream and deep sleep. So the Indriyartha means the sense objects. Objects for these senses of waking, dream and deep sleep operate only when I am associating myself as a waker, dream and deep sleep. If I am, even when it is happening, I am detached from that. That is the state what is called Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasa. The waking is a Sankalpa. The dream is a Sankalpa. The deep sleep is a Sankalpa. And in each one of them, there is this Bhokta, Bhogyam, Bhogas. That is the Triputi. The subject, object and the relationship between the subject and object in waking, subject, object and relation in dream, subject, object and the non-apprehension in the deep sleep. These are all called Sankalpas. So when I am saying Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasi, I have to be there, present. Because the sannyasi cannot be away from that. The sannyasi is the one, tebhyo vilakshanaha. I am separating myself out, therefore I become sannyasi. I renounce the waking. I renounce the dream. I renounce the deep sleep. Because I am the knower of all the three. Therefore I cannot be either the waker, either the dreamer or the deep sleeper. I am separate from all the three. Tebhyo vilakshana sakshi. So sankalpa vivarjitam. Knowing very well the operation that is happening. It is not that the waking doesn't happen, the dream doesn't happen, or the deep sleep doesn't happen. They happen. But they are not happening to me. They are the swabhava of the Prakriti. I am the Sakshi, the witness in which it is happening. The space is not undergoing any modification of anything, any object coming up or destruction going on. Neither with the heat nor with the cold. The space doesn't become anything different from what it is. It is in which everything is happening, yet it is not getting affected by it. Patma patram ivambasa. Like a lotus leaf in the water. The water will come and go on the leaf, but it doesn't get wet, nor it is touched by the water. So this Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasa has to be seen from the point of view that all thoughts, emotions, feelings, objects, everything which is functioning at the mental level, that is the place where the Sankalpa is taking place, or the volition is taking place, thinking is taking place, or the mental activity is taking place. That has to be sannyasa. We have to renounce that. Non-clinging to karma, non-clinging to the objects, and non-clinging to the sankalpas. Becomes the dissolution of the mind itself totally. In Advaita, mind has two fundamental modes. One is the Sankalpa Vikalpa stage where we experience waking, dream and deep sleep. It is the projecting and, the non-apprehension and projection. Sankalpa is when we imagine. Vikalpa is the projection, outward reaching. Not knowing the rope projected the snake on that. Not knowing the reality projects the Jagrat Swapna Sushupti. Then the same mind has another mode which is called Nirvikalpa, where the Vikalpa is not there. Nirvikalpa means without Vikalpa. It is the still non-projecting mode of mind resting in itself. It is not deep sleep. Please understand. In the deep sleep also, there is a projection of not knowing anything. In the Nirvikalpa stage, there is the stillness of the mind, yet there is no association with them. Because in the deep sleep, we say, I knew nothing. I had a good sleep. So the I had a relationship with the stillness of the mind to say there is nothing happening. But in the Nirvikalpa stage, the mind is still, it is non-projecting, saying I. The I is not there. It is abiding in the Atma as all-knowing, Purnata. The Purnatvam, which we spoke yesterday. Because there is nothing else other than Yatra nanyat pashyati anyat shrunoti anyat vijanati ekameva advitiyam nadvitiyam asti. So all these things are when the sankalpa vikalpa function is stilled and the mithya pravritti of the mind or the avidya pravritti or the avidya activity of the mind or the wrong identification to the body mind intellect is the avidya vritti. Therefore, the projected phenomenal world of the waking dream and deep sleep, they also are seen as projections, Maya's Vikshepa Shakti, using the Sankalpa Vikalpa of the mind. That ceases and the appearance of the world no longer grips the individual. The appearance of the world will be there. The transaction of the body, mind, intellect in the phenomenal world, because phenomenal world is inclusive of the body, mind, intellect. The waker phenomenal or the dream phenomenal or the deep sleep phenomenal. They are all phenomenal world. But they do not grip the mind of the Yogaruda or the one who has stilled the mind. So the two domains of Anushanjana, sense objects and actions, and the Sankalpa, or means the Yogaruda Sarva Sankalpa Sannyasa is the Antakarana's withdrawal from the total engagement in the projection. The projections happening, but there is no shanjana or attraction or attachment or feeling of minus or mine. The ego is now no more the individualist I, but the ego has in the mind has realized its true nature, that Aham Brahmasmi, I am the Atma. There is a relationship between the Yogaruda at the threshold of Jitnyasa in the Shankara's Bhashya. In the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, it starts with that Athato Brahma Jitnyasa. Now, therefore, the inquiry into the Brahman is the meaning. There is a word Atha means signaling readiness a specific quality of the Antakarana that makes the Brahma Vichara fruitful. It is this Yoga Ruda who is indicated by the one who is ready. The other state made concrete. The Muni whose Antakarana is no longer in the Indriya and the Karma and who has completely removed all the Sankalpa is comprehensively renounced to the, nothing, anything left behind. He is ripe for Brahma Jitnyasa. Therefore, the Atha Tho Brahma Jitnyasa, the Atha, and this Yoga Ruda is now ripe for Brahma Jitnyasa. He stands at the threshold where his Shama, tranquility of the mind, has done the work and that Jnana can now do its work. The Jnana removes even the feeling that I am a Yoga Ruda or a Sannyasi or I am a human being. He becomes Brahman himself. This Advaitic understanding of the Adhikari, Paripakwata, fully ripened Adhikari or the one whose Antakarna is like a polished mirror now. It is no more obscured by the Indriyarteshu or Karma, Sankalpa, Vikalpa, Vichara. He is capable of reflecting on the Atma Prakasha. He is not seeing anything in the phenomenal world as phenomenal world. He knows the reality of it. Therefore, the Sankalpa Vikalpa is no other, and in that polished mirror, the Atma shines by itself. There is an experiential paradox of Sankalpa Vikalpa Sannyasa. I'll complete that, and with this, I will complete that. There's a paradox. One can intend to renounce all Sankalpa. Does not the very intention to remove the Sankalpa Vikalpa constitute a Sankalpa? The standard question which comes to every Advaitin. Even moksha, is it not a desire? It is the last Sankalpa, or yes, is the last desire, the burning desire for liberation. But this Sankalpa is Swayamnashi, or self-consuming. The example used is the stick used to stir the funeral pyre, which is itself evidently getting consumed in the end. Same way the moksha Sankalpa, or the Sankalpa to be one with Brahman, which is toward the Shama, that the Shama fructifies completely by a natural stillness of the mind where even the requirement of stillness of the mind is no more a requirement. That is the time when he is fully ascended. He becomes a Brahmavit. He becomes a sannyasi. The true sannyasi is at that time. So this statement by Krishna is the preparation for how we can become a Yoga Ruda. What are the methods? How we do proceed into that? In all these things, there is only one person who is interested in it. You are the one interested in your own Atma. So the next verse, Uddhared Atman Atmanam Na Atmanam Avasadaye. Atmaiva Bandhu Atma Atmaiva Ripuratman. You are your own friend. You are the one, your own enemy. You are the one who is wanting to save yourself. That is the verse which is coming up next, which we will see on next Monday. Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Thank you. Dhanyawad.
Yes, thank you very much, Bindoji. I've opened the hand raising. There is some glitch with the chat. I'm not able to open the chat window. I tried a few times. But the hand raising is open. I'm going to try again the chat.
Chat is open. I just typed Hari Om. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Looks like there
Hear
is a
you, Bindoji, but
there is a glitch.
Yeah.
my chat function is not working. Okay. Namaste,
Okay,
Venkatji.
it's your
Go ahead. I don't want.
Namaste
Yeah.
Venkat.
Namaste,
Namaste Venkat.
namaste. Prakash, you're right. There is a glitch. I can't do that either. So,
Okay, go ahead. Anyway, I Chaitan, then even Patrick has chatted saying Hari Om.
Hari Om. Vinduji,
Yes.
the Shama you talked about, that it's
Hmm.
also applicable, including Shamadhi Tat Sampatti,
Hmm.
is also validation given here. It also applies because I remember, there are open funerals where I've seen this, that the one who manages them finally
Hmm.
takes all the rituals used around that funeral fire. He just brushes
Yes.
them into the fire itself.
Right.
That burns everything.
Yes.
It self-consuming.
Yes.
Even the doer having a aim for that shed sampatti will be consumed.
Yes. Satsamati is a earlier stage before he becomes a sannyasi who wants to adurukshu, who want to achieve this. That is the stage where he starts shamadama, uparati, titiksha, saddha, samadhanam, etc. That
Mm.
shama is withdrawal of the sense organs. Whereas here what shama is being mentioned is the shanti of the mind or tranquility of the mind. Shamanam, where there is no agitation in the mind. But the mind is still desirous of that aparoksha anubhava because he has not achieved it. That knowledge comes and the requirement of the tranquility by the mind is not two things where he sees the akshaya shanti as the reality. So there is no more tranquility required for him at that stage.
Then the yoga rudha we are talking about, then it requires gnana for complete session of the mind. Right, Binduji?
He is aware of that jnana, but he has not achieved that jnana. Intellectually knowing, practicing towards achieving it, and making it one's own, swamshikaranam, which we say that is that. The knowledge is not yours until you become what is known. Every other knowledge is intellectual. Even the Upanishadic words and the Atman, Brahman, it's all intellectual. Until you become that knowledge is not complete.
So the yoga rudha talked about is with the gnanam. The yoga rudha doesn't happen
Yes,
without gnanam.
that Yoga Ruda is not a jnani or a Brahmavit. Yogaruda he is in the threshold. That is the word used by Shankaracharya and the commentaries. He is at the threshold of become a jnani or a brahmavid. He knows that aham brahmasmi, but he has no aparoksha anubhava.
Yeah. In our yoga, stages, there is this samyama, and then Chidananda, then there is yogi. There are two more steps after samyama. Chidananda is experiencing one's own nature constantly, continuously. Yogi is like Aruda. That's the steps I see.
See the depending upon the path you take, terminologies can vary. But whether you call him a yogi, brahmaved, atmaved, tattvaved, or sthita prajna, it doesn't matter. Those terms are all from our empirical transactional world. And once the Yogaruda state is achieved, he doesn't see anything other than himself. So there is no Yogaruda to say that I am a Yogaruda or I am a yogi at that time. Because there is no yoga. Yatrana anyat pasyati anyat shrunoti anyat vijanati. That vijanati means you do not know anything. You are not there anything as other than to know something. So even that statements of those terminologies becomes irrelevant at that time. That is why that is saying yatra yoga, yatra veda, aveda bhavati.
Yes, Binduji. This, in context of the verse covered today, is still in the domain of, karma yoga.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. That I think that clarifies that yoga ruda in context of karma yoga.
Right.
Right, Binduji.
Thank you, Venkat. Namaste, Atul.
Namaste, Binduji. I just need one clarity. Like you said, Sankalp Vikalpa, and Sankalpa is imagination and Vikalpa is projection. So what do you mean by
Right.
projection?
Projection. For example,
Yeah,
when you do not know the rope, you see a snake. The snake is not a reality, but you are projecting a snake in place of a rope. Same way, the whole experience of the phenomenal world is nothing but Satchitananda, consciousness, pure consciousness, awareness. But in that, we are projecting names and forms, and we think the names and form are independent reality. Like the snake was an independent reality when it was projected. But when you know that the names and forms have no independent existence, they exist only because of awareness or consciousness. When that knows and you know that the consciousness is the only reality, the name and form are appearances. Like the mud itself or the ornament itself, everything is based on the material with which they are made. They do not have independent existence if that the material is removed. If you remove the gold from the ornaments cannot have an independent existence. So the existence of the ornament is nothing but the gold. Same way, the whole world, phenomenal world, the name and form, everything is there because of the Satchidananda Brahman or Atma or consciousness. If you remove consciousness, you cannot tell the existence and awareness of any object or anything for that matter. Emotions, feelings, thoughts, objects, everything. That is why the Vikalpa, Sankalpa, Vikalpa. Sankalpa is we are imagining and then we are projecting the reality to it.
right. So Vikalpa is based on the imagination first. First we imagine, then we
Yes.
project. Okay.
Yes.
As you also said, in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, there would be no I, so there would be no projection. That is the state of Gyan.
No. That there is a time when the mind is still, it is ready to get the jnana. In that mind, when the jnana aparoksha anubhava takes place, that is the time when the sankalpa and vikalpa is known as the activity of the mind. When the mind is still, we do not have sankalpa vikalpa, but we do not know what is sankalpa vikalpa caused due to. But when the knowledge takes place, the aparoksha anubhava takes place, then we will know the mind, the sankalpa and vikalpa as that of the mind, as not as of mine. I am no more sankalpa, I am not more imagining, I am not more projecting. It is the mind which has the habit, it is the nature of the mind, swabhava of the mind, to have imagination and projection. The individual, the ego that I am Atul, I am Bindu, is also a part of the Sankalpa and Vikalpa. I imagined I am the human being, therefore I call myself as Bindu. Is a projection.
Correct, Binduji. So, do you think that Samadhi is near to the Jnana? Like in that state, we can have the Gyan?
You need to be in a state of Samadhi for Jnana to happen. Without the mind being tranquil, that knowledge cannot be seen. It is just like the mirror without dust can only see the clarity of the face reflected, or on a still water only you can see the reflection. If the waves are there, you cannot see the reflection on the water. Something similar, the mind has to be tranquil. Then only you will know the reality in the same mind.
Right. When mind will be still, then there would be no projection and that consciousness reflect back to itself. Then Jnana happen, right?
Right. In the mind, in the deep sleep also our mind is still. There is no sankalpa vikalpa in the deep sleep. But it is not ready to receive the knowledge. Otherwise, in the deep sleep, we should have had the knowledge. That can happen only in waking. When the making, where the projections are there, the projections have become still, nullified, and when the knowledge takes, that knowledge will make us realize the activity of the body, mind, intellect as projection. Right now, we cannot see it as a projection because we identify with it.
Correct. But you also said in the deep sleep, there is a projection of the, I think, non-projection, you know, something like that.
Yes, yes, but then that also we know it only when we wake up. We do not know in the deep sleep that we are not knowing anything because the mind is not active.
Correct. If there is a projection, there must be imagination in the deep sleep. Then who is imagining that? Because there would be no I.
The waker, the waker is imagining I am in deep sleep. The waker is imagining I am dreaming, isn't it?
Right. But we have the deep sleep. It's not just
No, the
imagination, right?
waker is no waker is having deep sleep. Actually speaking, we are neither the waker nor the dreamer nor the deep sleeper. We projected the waker, Sankalpa, and the waker thinks that I am dreaming, I am having deep sleep. It is a subset
Okay.
of the waking.
If in the wake up stage, in the deep sleep stage, there would be no waker. then how in the waking stage knows that there would be a deep sleep because it was not present there at that moment. How it knows?
See, the thing is that the consciousness in which the waker is there, the consciousness in the deep sleep is there, the consciousness in the dream is happening. That consciousness is the substratum in which everything is happening. So what is being remembered in the waking is the absence of waking in the deep sleep. Not that deep sleep is separate from the waking.
Correct. But memory is the part of the waking state because in the pure
No,
awareness there will be no memory.
memory is the part of the mind. And the mind is there in the waking, dream and deep sleep. Yes,
But that mind is silent mind.
it's a silent, it's a mind which is silent, which has no sense organs in operation. Therefore it says I knew nothing because mind otherwise knows only multiplicity. When the multiplicity cannot be produced by the indriyas, either external indriyas or the internal indriyas, the mind says I knew nothing, but the mind was present as a cognizer or a person who knows the absence of multiplicity.
Correct. So mind is also present in the wake up state, also in the dream state and deep sleep state. So mind has all those memories. So this mind is like
Yes.
chitta.
Yes, that is why Manobuddhi Ahankara Chitta. Chitta is the place of the depository of the mind, memory. The waker, what does he say? I had a good sleep, I knew nothing, is a memory. It is not an experience which he is talking about. It is a memory of an experience which he is talking about. Right?
Right. So that means mind is also permanent like consciousness. How it is possible then?
Mind is no, mind doesn't come and goes. The things in the mind comes and goes. Mind doesn't come and go. It becomes a mind when things come. That is why when indriyarteshu, karmasu and sarva sankalpa, all the three when it is removed, the same mind is now ready for the knowledge.
Right. So mind is like a mirror. When it is clean, then it is ready for the knowledge, right?
Yes. Thank you, Prakash. Can we call it in? We'll meet on Monday.
Sure. Yes. So thanks everyone for coming, and especially Venkatji and Atul for the follow-up discussions. As always, these questions reveal a lot more and remind you what is the pointer, right? And the other aspect is Sravana Manana, Atul. And on that note, thank you very much, Bindoji. So our next class is on Tuesday, 6:30 a.m. IST, and available in Clubhouse, or you can go to the YouTube channel. Over to you, Bindoji, to close the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash. Atul, you have something more to come? Atul, anything more?
Yes. So I have just last one question. Like you said, mind when pure, then it is ready for knowledge. So mind is getting the knowledge. Consciousness is already have the knowledge. So it's like
Mind and
Chidabhasa.
no,
Chidabhasa.
mind and knowledge are not two separate. Knowledge itself
Can you define?
is mind. Manayeva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshaye. The moment it starts identifying as separate, when there is only one, how can there be a mind and the knowledge separate? It is not. It is what is happening is that I imagine myself separate as a human being and operating. That moment when I realize, have the knowledge, that is what the Upanishad says, that yatrana anyat pashyati anyat shrunoti anyat vijanati. You are not able to know anything separate from yourself. You are not able to see anything separate from yourself. You are not able to know or smell, touch, feel, or anything other than yourself. In that state, the mind is not separate from the knowledge. The mind is not mind. The mind, amani bhava, this thing, Gaudapada Karika, we learned about it. Prapanchopashamam, Shantam, Shivam, Advaitam. When it is mentioned that Prapanchopashamam means the Prapancha is in the mind. When the Prapanchopashamam takes place, the mind is no more mind. That is called the Amani Bhava. That mind is the consciousness. But when avidya comes, or avidya is imagined by the mind, it takes on the creation, the vivarta. That is why the avidya is there. That is what Krishna says, that swabhavastu pravartate. It is the nature of the consciousness to know. But while knowing it, if it starts knowing as separate, then the world is created. In that knowing only the world is created. So what is created in the knowing can it be different from knowing or awareness or consciousness? No. The mind is consciousness, the indriyas are consciousness, the sense organs are consciousness, the objects are consciousness, everything is consciousness. But the intermediary mind, when it doesn't know its true nature, it starts imagining sankalpa, that I am an individual, the world is there, the objects are there, everything is separate. And what it sees, knows everything through the indriyas, he thinks that it is the consciousness. No, it is not consciousness. They are all nothing but vritti, or the vibrations of consciousness in the mind, triggered by the contents of the mind as the objects. So when you are removing the contents, the actions for the contents, and the imagination, that is why Indriyarteshu karmasu sarvasankalpa sannyasi. These three words Krishna used here in this verse is only to reassure that you are that now, this very moment. Abandon all the three and you don't have to become that. You will realize you are that.
So can we say when mind will be pure and it's completely still, then same mind is become the consciousness. It's realized that it is just consciousness. It is no more mind then.
Yeah, the mind is not there in reality. We are imagining the mind is there. No, that is there. The mind itself is imagining itself, that it is separately there.
Correct. Thank you, Binduji, for clarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. We will meet on Tuesday with the very famous verse of Uddared Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadaye Atmaiva Bandhu Atmaiva Ripuratmana. We'll talk about it. And Krishna is taking beautifully, helping us all to move from the karma to karma yoga to sannyasa to dhyana and to the knowledge. Let us follow the path of Krishna. Hari Om. Have a good day. See you.
Hari Om.